Um, do you have to have silence when you write, or do you have to have music when you write?
It depends which genre I'm writing in, I guess. If I'm writing fiction, I normally like music. If I'm writing something where I have to do heavy research and concentrate, I usually don't have the music going. So it
Okay.
just depends my genre.
So, who is your favorite artist that you like to listen to when you do have music?
A group called Wardruna. It's
Okay.
a Viking group. A lot of it's odd acoustic and obviously instrumental, so you don't hear a lot of singing or there's some chanting going on. That's about all you get. You don't have to think about the words so much.
Okay.
Otherwise, you get concentrated on that.
Um, what is your favorite thing about writing?
My favorite thing about writing, obviously, I'm trying to be careful because writers, we tend to get little, I don't want to call it elitist, but we're dictating to people, we're enlightening people. Well, people are smarter than we give them credit to. For so it's not so much about enlightening people or educating people, but I like to share stories with people. Share, oh, this is interesting to you. Like a lot of my books' titles are purposely flamboyant. Like I have one called "How to Overthrow Our Government." Oh, can't even see it on here, but there we go.
Yeah.
How to Overthrow Our Government. Purposely, it's really not about how to overthrow a government. Once you get into it, it's actually about how it's probably not going to happen. You're not going to be able to throw over government because first of all, you're not going to have enough resources, enough violence, or whatever you need to do. And then when you get to the point where you've actually done it, do you know how to establish a new one without going into full anarchy again? So, but it's flamboyant. People are, oh, I'm going to read this. So a lot of my books are flamboyant on that way on purpose. So
Okay.
the titles.
Um, what is your least favorite thing about writing?
My least favorite thing about writing is the editing. I know a lot of people have said, again, I do it all myself, but a lot of people like to give it to somebody else to edit because there's typos. Typos just annoy me to no end. So a lot of times I'll let the text to speech program read it back to me, even though it's very robotic sounding. So to catch the typos or maybe even sometimes my inflections, like, okay, well, this needs to change here because it even sounds more robotic being read by this robot. So
Okay. Um, and how do you choose your book titles?
I don't choose them at the very beginning usually. There's a few books that I do that, but typically it's somewhere in the middle of the book that I say, well, that sentence or that phrase right there is a perfect title for this book. So that's usually something in the middle.
Have you ever met anybody famous or well known?
Not necessarily an author, but yes, I've met vice presidents and
Oh wow. Okay.
singers. Let's see, Henry Lee Summer, probably a little bit beyond your time. You're probably a little young for that. But Henry Lee Summer used to live on my street, and
Oh
I'd
wow.
go down and listen to him and his band practice right on their front porch, things like that.
Okay.
So
Um, if you could step into another world, what would it be and why?
if I could step into another world, well, there's one book I have that I don't know if you're a gamer or not. A lot of people are gamers.
My
Your age.
husband's a gamer, so.
Let's see this one. There we go. Kind of up. There we go. It's not coming through. But yeah, it's called PVE, which I'll cheat here. It stands for Player versus Environment, and
Mhm.
it's based on a game called Ark Survival Evolved.
Yep,
You ever heard of that one?
my friend plays that game, so I
Okay.
play that game.
So you see it there in the this text is backwards. Anyhow, you see it there in the text here. And basically, you're in this world where there's lots of serene and beautiful spots that aren't even on Earth. I'd love to say, oh, it'd be great if I could set my own cabin up here and live here, minus the dinosaurs, but it'd be great.
Yeah, I've seen her play that game, and it's very interesting. I don't play it, but I've seen my friend play it. My husband, I think he played it a little bit, and then another one of our friends play that game. So
Yeah. So
I do know what it is.
that's
Do you find it easier to write the first book in a series or the last book in a series? Or have you ever written a full series?
I haven't written a series. I guess I have written a series. I'll take that back. So I have one called Together More, and then I have another one that's it's more like called a spin-off, so much a series, called Gypsy Sibling Adventures. So basically, it spins off the characters into another book. I think it's actually easier to write the second book, and imagine the third and fourth, because you already have some context and foundation for what you're doing here. However, you got to be careful because if you write it in such a way that the reader has never read the first book or first whatever part of the series, they'll have no clue what's going on and have no background to why your characters are behaving certain ways. So I think it's important for the author to consider that unless they're only writing towards the select group of people that have read the series. Sort of like when you watch a movie or episodes of shows that if you don't know what's going on, it's pointless.
Right. How do you come up with your ideas?
I'm sorry, I lost the audio here. There we go.
How do you come up with your ideas?
Well, a lot of times I give credit to people that I've interacted with because they'll say something or do something, and then I launch from there. Like, for example, I had a fellow that contacted me. He bought a bunch of documents from auction where this man was in the military in World War II and flew bomber planes. And this is his whole life story. He's got it all documented in pictures. And then he moved into NASA where he helped design some of the original satellites. And so he's like, this guy's story needs to be told because it's just been sitting in this locker for the last 70 years. So this will be one of the first times. But anyhow, normally when people say something or do something, that triggers me to write what they're talking about. So
Okay. If you could tell yourself anything, what would it be?
If I could tell myself or teach
If you could tell your younger self anything, I should
tell
say.
my younger self.
Yeah,
something.
sorry, your younger self.
I would say don't get caught up on climbing up any kind of corporate ladder or things like that. Try to do things that make you happy, even if it doesn't make you rich. Not that necessarily it's always ever been my intention to get rich, but you got to do things that just make you happy. And so long as you can survive and feed yourself and save, don't worry about all the rest of the stuff because otherwise you're going to spin yourself in circles. So.
I think that's pretty fair. Yeah. I think that's probably what I would tell myself too. So do you plan out your novels or do you just kind of let them write themselves?
No, they get planned out basically as I'm doing the work. Like I have one, the How to Overthrow a Government book that got planned out, and it's spinned off into it's a guy that I hired from Belgium. He's there right now, basically probably as we speak, doing a short monologue, 8-minute monologue video basically that condenses the book's story into a video that he's going to produce. So I have to think about all that stuff as we go along. How we send off. So it's fun.
Okay. What would you be doing if you weren't a writer?
Well, what I was doing before I wasn't a writer was a data analyst. So it was one of the most boring jobs you can get, looking at data all day long. So, but it's interesting because I do coding too. So I do computer programming. But a lot of people think, well, computer programmers and computer coders are very good at math, but I suck at math to the point that it's awful. Literally, it's just awful. I don't know if you know all my timetables. It's horrible. So anyhow, when I code, I think about how we used to be taught how to diagram sentences, nouns and verbs, and how they branch off, and that's how I see the conditional statements. And so, to me, coding is even literature to some degree. So it's really branched off. And so what would I be doing if I wasn't a writer? I'm not certain, because now this is what I want to do. So if I couldn't do anything else, I don't know. Maybe I'm an artist. I do artwork. I do landscaping. I would have to have some way to express myself. I know.
Yeah.
That.
Okay. So it'd be something creative then.
Correct.
So have you ever Googled yourself?
I have, only because I used to have a lot of websites and blogs, and I had to make sure that what people were saying, and I used to be into debates and stuff, and sometimes people would actually create entire websites that were slamming me and trying to do defaming things and crazy stuff, and I had to see. I have one guy that actually, they're called vampire scripts, so he found one of my websites, and he hooked the images on the website and sent messages over and over to that image to try to crash the website. So yeah, I have to, only because of the fact that, not the fact that I'm egotistic, but the fact that I have to protect the reputation or the brand of the writer. So
Gotcha. Okay.
So, right.
What was your favorite childhood book?
Childhood book. I liked a lot of Dr. Seuss books as a child, but oddly enough, I read a lot of old history books. I mean, ones that barely were just translated into Old English and nothing else. So the V's and thous and things like that, and still using the V's for W's. So I can't think of a specific book, but I do know one of my favorite authors is Isaac Asimov. If you want to know that, maybe it's a later question, but there you go.
I don't know that name. I can't say that I have heard of it, but I'm definitely now going to look into it.
Isaac Asimov, yeah.
Okay. Well, and last but not least, where can we find you on social media and where can people contact you?
Well, you can contact me on Amazon author, /author / Rodrick Edwards, as you see there. or quicker, you can just find me at rodricke.com and launch from there. But I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. Let's see where else. Parler, which is a newer one. A couple other ones, I believe.
What's Parler?
Parler is a less restrictive version of Facebook. So they don't constantly say they're fact checking you or banning you or putting you in jail or anything like that for saying things they don't like, things like that. So Parler's a fairly new one. Oh. It's based off the Latin word for parlay or parlor, to speak.
I've never heard of it.
Parlez-vous français or stuff like that.
Oh, well, thank you so much, and I hope you had fun, and I had fun, and thank you for joining us today. And I look forward to talking to you in the future.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Bye.
Take care. Take care. Bye.